Hello folks and welcome to BikeWale. We are at Mumbai airport and we are traveling to this beautiful place called Bhuj in Gujarat to ride the new Jawa 350. Now this is a successor to the Jawa Standard and it gets subtle styling changes, a larger 334cc engine, some hardware changes, and even the dimensions are slightly different, like the ground clearance is slightly higher. And I'm really excited and eager to know how this motorcycle performs out on the road and how it feels overall and how different it is from its predecessor. So let's see how it goes. India is such a beautiful country with so much diversity in its landscape. I mean, just look around me, what a place. And it's because of places like this that motorcycling is so much fun in India. But that's a story for another day. Today we talk about the new Jawa 350. It is the successor to the Jawa Standard, which is also known as Jawa or Jawa Classic. Now, the company has made multiple revisions in the motorcycle with the intention to make the overall riding experience better, to iron out whatever niggles the previous iteration had while keeping the overall essence and flavor of the motorcycle unchanged. So today, we are spending almost an entire day with the new Jawa 350 to figure out whether it is only different and better on paper or also in the real world, and to tell you whether its price tag of 2.15 lakh ex-showroom is justified. So stick with us till the end of the video, but before we move ahead, you know what to do, right? Subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon. Jawa has made subtle changes in the motorcycle to improve the overall quality, but we'll talk about that later. The biggest change comes in the form of a larger 334cc engine which replaces the previous 294cc mill, and this is the same unit as the 42 bobber and the Perak. Now, while the displacement is up, power output has gone down by close to 4 bhp, but peak torque output is up by around 1 Newton meters, and it comes in slightly earlier in the rev band. Now, although this is the same engine as the 42 Perak and bobber, Jawa has done certain changes. The compression ratio is lower, there is a different fueling map, the cylinder block is slightly different, and the company has done that to give a different specific feel to this particular motorcycle and not replicate the kind of experience that you get from the 42 bobber and the Perak. Accommodating the new engine is a heavily revised chassis, because of which the overall dimensions of the motorcycle and the curb weight is also different. So at 178 mm, the ground clearance is higher by 13 mm as compared to its predecessor, while it is also 8 mm higher than the Classic 350, its closest rival. Its seat height is also considerably higher at 802 mm, whereas the previous model had it at 765 mm, which is a substantial increment. It is also heavier at 194 kg, but still 1 kilo lighter than the Classic 350. Other changes include inclusion of wider tires, longer travel suspension with different damping characteristics and spring rate as compared to the previous bike, while the seat had also been replaced by a unit which has denser cushioning for more comfort over longer rides. The rest of the changes are in terms of design. Paying homage to the older Jawas like the 353, this has always been a handsome looking motorcycle. However, the company wanted to add more visual mass to it, so it included larger fenders, wider tires, a longer travel front suspension, and a chunkier seat, which also has functional significance. The company has also stepped up the quality of chrome and paint. In the flesh, while the bike looks slightly larger than before, the difference isn't significant, and it still looks smaller than its closest contenders. I feel Jawa should have experimented more by giving some noticeable aesthetic revisions to it. Having said that, the newly introduced Mystic Orange paint scheme looks really gorgeous. Before I talk about how the engine performs out on the road, let's listen to its exhaust note because I really like it. It has that bassy note, and at higher revs, it sounds very raspy and sporty. Let's give it a listen. This engine has a very different character than the peaky nature of the previous smaller displacement mill. This one is more of a thumper with a very strong mid-range, and that makes riding it at city speeds extremely enjoyable. To give you a perspective, when you accelerate it from 50 to 60 kmph of speeds in 6th gear, the bike pulls ahead vigorously. The bassy exhaust sound and pops and bangs under deceleration only add to the delightful persona of this motor. Even the refinement is impressive until close to 90 kmph, and there aren't a lot of vibrations. Helping its case further is a very light clutch, which is an assist and slipper type, and a gearbox that is very sleek and shifts with a nice click. However, once you pick up the pace on the highway and approach 100 kmph of speed, the vibrations start making their presence felt on the pegs and the handlebar, and they keep on increasing with the rise in speed. Also, almost every time I rolled off the throttle, the bike decelerated with a jerk, especially at slower speeds. This was an issue with the fueling of the engine and should be easily fixable. Accompanying the friendly character of the engine is the confidence-inspiring handling dynamics of the Jawa 350. Owing to the wider tires, longer wheelbase and slightly revised geometry, the bike feels more stable and predictable around corners, especially while going through sweeping bends. You can have a lot of fun flicking it from side to side around a set of twisties. Adding more sweetness to the package is a strong bite and lever feel from the front brake, while the ABS too doesn't feel overly intrusive. As for the suspension, it is tuned to be on the stiffer side, and you feel almost every undulation, big or small. While the ride quality is not outright backbreaking, it feels constantly busy, and even carrying higher speeds doesn't help much. Now let's talk about the seating ergonomics of the motorcycle. With the substantial increment in the saddle height, which sits at 802 mm now, people who are on the shorter side, let's say 5'4" or 5'5", they might have some issues getting on the motorcycle or handling it in the city. It's not a problem for me. I'm 5 feet 11 inches. But once you are seated, you are greeted with a very comfortable, commanding and neutral riding position. I've already spent a couple of hours riding the motorcycle and didn't find any issue with the seat cushioning, no backside getting sore or stuff like that. And the handlebar is within your easy reach. The foot peg is slightly forward set, and you can grip the fuel tank properly. The small niggle is that if your feet are longer, you might consistently keep touching these side panels, which feels a bit odd, but it's not a very big problem. Now, strangely, despite this being a modern classic roadster, standing up on the motorcycle and riding for a few minutes doesn't feel very awkward, which is not the case with other modern classic motorcycles. That's one very likable and strange bit about the Jawa 350. With a semi-digital console, halogen lights all around, dual-channel ABS and a slipper clutch, the motorcycle is lagging behind seriously in terms of modern features. While that might not be a cause of concern for a modern classic purist, we believe Jawa should have given it a more data-extensive and legible instrument cluster. The existing unit just comprises an Allenok speedometer, a fuel gauge, along with a digital odometer and 2 trip meters. On the quality front, the Jawa 350 is a significant step up over the Jawa Standard. Apart from a few unfinished welds, I couldn't find any major quality issues. The paint finish in particular is very impressive, while the fitment of panels and the quality of the switches are also decent. So to conclude the story of the Jawa 350, I think all the effort that the company has put into making it better have paid off. Starting with the engine, with great mid-range performance, it feels very sporty and very engaging and very fun to ride. And that bassy exhaust note and pops and bangs just add to the overall fun experience of the motorcycle. And then the higher ground clearance is always a boon in a country like India where road conditions are not that great. The seat feels very comfortable over long hours of riding with wider tires. The handling is more confidence inspiring, and the motorcycle has always been very handsome looking, and it still is, especially with this new paint scheme. But this bike is not deprived of shortcomings. Well, there is inconsistency in terms of the throttle response while you're decelerating, which is not a big issue, but I think it should have had better top end, or it should have performed in a more unstrained manner beyond 100 kmph, which would have made it a better tourer, more versatile. And then I think the 194 kg curb weight, it is always felt while you're moving the motorcycle. And in terms of features as well, I think modern classic tourists might not be bothered about that, but I feel at least the instrument cluster should have been more modern, more data loaded, and more legible. As for the pricing, at 2.15 lakh ex-showroom, it sits very close to the classic 350, which in itself has better brand recall, better popularity. Now, whether this is a better motorcycle than the classic 350, that is something debatable, and we can confirm that only after we do neck-to-neck proper comparison of both these motorcycles. But if these niggles aren't that big of an issue, and all the pros of the motorcycle outdo the cons for you, I think you must go for this motorcycle. It's a very likable machine. I like it.